Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 27 of the Wellbeing Matters podcast.
27, mind you, we haven't done any for a while.
We've not done for a while, we've been very busy. But what I thought, what we are talking about today is, this is new to me, so I'm looking forward to this podcast, because although you have been going on about it for a while, and you've been listening to some stuff...
I like the way you say it, you've been going on about it for quite a while.
Okay, it's been in your conversations with me for a while, as this particular thing. And when you first mentioned it, it's got quite a funny name, and I thought you were talking... You said, I'm interested in knowing more about Vegas.
Vegas. No.
So I heard Vegas, and I thought, what? Is this a holiday we've got planned? Are we going to gamble across in the desert in America? But it's nothing to do with the town Vegas. Vegas is something. What's it called? The Vegas nerve.
It's called the Vegas nerve.
So today, Sue is going to tell us a bit about the Vegas nerve. And this is something, it's absolutely fascinating, which is why I'm looking forward to doing this podcast today. And I thought it'd be a good way to ease ourselves back into doing a podcast, because over the course of the last few weeks, I have noticed, certainly through lockdown, you've been in a lot more study and understanding things in a deeper way, of which this is one of the things you've been studying.
It is. It was, I saw a little video not long ago, only a couple of days ago, and it was Deepak, and he did a little video on the vagus nerve. So it kind of...
Just go back a bit there. Deepak Chopra.
Chopra. Well, I wasn't sure what his surname was.
So when you said Deepak, it sounds like a rap star.
Like one of my mates.
Like Tupac Deepak, in the hood.
What's his name?
It's Deepak Chopra.
Deepak Chopra. And he did a little video on the vagus nerve. So I thought, the vagus nerve, I used to be like really interested in that, and I still am. So I did want to do a little bit of a talk on it, give some, background, some advice, and exactly what it does. And I thought it's such a long, complicated piece that I couldn't remember it all. And I have this thing about not wanting to have notes, but Deepak was there and he had all his notes and he was throwing them about and he was looking down his glasses at them. So I thought it might be nice to just explain in a slightly different way to people what the vagus nerve is and how and why it's important.
Yeah, because your actual feedback was that you found this video incredibly tedious.
Yeah.
So we don't want that. We're trying to explain what the vagus nerve is in a more, better 24/7 way.
Yeah.
We're also in a new setting as well. If you're listening to this, you won't know, but if you're watching it on YouTube, we're in a new little setting we've done for this podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, hello.
We're in a teeny weeny sofa.
Well, I'm trying to create something now. As we've developed over the coronavirus lockdown, I've started thinking about where we can do as podcasts so they become more kind of like a set. We have a set up for it. So before, when we've had it recorded, you've been sat on your desk, I've been sat at mine, there's rubbish on the floor, and you can see it bin.
Get on with it. I mean, this is a small room. This is your office.
Our office?
It's actually part of a much bigger mansion where I float around the house. Anyway,
we don't live in a mansion. Don't start giving people that we make sound like we've got deluded ideas of grandeur. So you've made some notes, which is perfectly fine. So what I thought we'd play this today is, let's tell the listeners or the watchers, starts off with trying to explain as succinctly as possible what the vagus nerve is.
I'm going...
And then as you go through it,
yeah,
I'll pick up questions that I have about it. Okay. And hopefully there'll be questions that other people might think to ask as well. So we're kind of interviewing you on this today.
Right.
So go on. First and foremost, Sue, what is the vagus nerve?
The vagus nerve is one of the longest nerves of the body. There's 12, and this is classed as the 10th one. And it starts from the brain, from the cranium, goes all the way through your face, into your chest, into your stomach, and into your digestive tract. So you can imagine how long it is. But it's called, the word vagus means wanderer, because it has little things that come off that attach to the heart, the lungs, the spleen, the liver. So it's a very, very important nerve. And if it's not healthy and strong, we can get lots of different symptoms, from headaches to they're even thinking Alzheimer's, to digestive, to heart murmurs, just about everything really, to be honest. So that's why I find it quite fascinating. And in yoga, it's become a little bit of a buzzword, because there's a lot of natural ways you can reset your vagus nerve, because there is a medical intervention nowadays. I'm not quite sure what that is. Don't sound like the sort of thing I'd want to do.
What's interesting for me is I have never heard the word vagus nerve mentioned before. No. So if this is so crucial to our to our well-being and our health, physical health, why don't we hear about it? Because especially if there's a medical intervention, so the medical profession must be aware of the vagus nerve. Would they have another name for it? Or?
No, and it's just what you're looking for, because as soon as I Googled it, lots and lots of information came up about it. And I think it's just what you're looking for when you think of the human body and all the different aspects of it and all the teeny weeny things inside that we know nothing about. And one of them's missing or one of them's broken causes a chain reaction, which then can cause a multitude of illnesses and not very good well-being.
So this is a long nerve. It starts in your cranium, goes down to your gut. It goes out to all your different organs, your spleen and your kidneys and your liver.
Yeah, quite a few, really.
So how do you want to play this, and how are you going to break this down for our listeners? What's the stages that we're going to go through? How are we going to play this today?
This really was to advise people on natural ways to reset the vagus nerve.
Okay. Is there a way we'd know if it needed resetting? When would we know our vagus nerve was
Well,
not
it is
the way it
linked
should be?
is it parasympathetic, fight or flight? So we can get stressed if it's out of balance. We can get anxious. It's been linked to bipolar. It's been linked to a lot of mental health issues as well. We can get bad guts. That doesn't sound very good, does it?
No,
We
but
can
I
get
understand what you mean.
digestive issues.
Digestive issues. I always think what's interesting for me when I think about stress or feeling anxious, it is a very similar feeling to indigestion, that kind of tightness and that funny, uncertain feeling in your stomach.
They do talk a lot about it in reflexology because they stimulate the nerve endings in the feet that then work their way up to the vagus nerve.
Okay, so go on. Tell us a bit more.
So this was about whether or not you'd know if your vagus nerve was out of sorts.
Out of sorts. How do I find that out?
Well, as I said, one of the things would be, it's not particularly anything that just comes along out of the blue. It could be something that you have, I mean, they've talked about it helping with addictions. So it's anything where you've got an imbalance in your body, either physically or mentally. You could look at the vagus nerve and sort of clearing it and stimulating it.
You talk about this a lot, this idea of imbalance. And I've started to realise the more you talk about things, the more I pick them up. Because although you might be talking to me, sometimes I'm not always 100% listening.
Because I do talk a lot.
No, but because there's so many things we do talk about, but the idea of imbalances, that fascinates me because I found, certainly recently, the more you've talked about this kind of imbalance, I can tell when I've got an imbalance maybe in what I've eaten. Maybe I've eaten too much sweet stuff and not enough, kind of good stuff. There's an imbalance caused by that.
So when you've eaten something like, a lot of sugar,
I feel...
How do you feel?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's funny you should say this because I tend to feel quite anxious. I mean, one thing you do now, and I know you only say you do it twice a day, you drink coffee. Well, I stopped drinking coffee altogether because I felt every time I drank coffee, I got incredibly tense. Now, I know it's a stimulant, but I mean, I wasn't used to not taking coffee. It's not like I never drank it. But there was a period of time a few months ago when I started to feel really kind of stressed, anxious, uncomfortable feeling when I was drinking coffee. So I haven't drank coffee since. Well,
if you think about what we've just said about the vagus nerve, it starts in the brain and it ends up in the digestive tract. So if you've got any imbalances in there, it's going to work its way up and it can make you feel anxious and depressed and just out of sorts.
Excellent.
From something that you've eaten that hasn't agreed with you.
So we're talking there specifically about kind of food and drink. My coffee made me feel a bit anxious. Think about other things that when I think about anxious is sometimes if I'm not maybe on time for something or I know I should have done something and I haven't, that kind of gives me an anxious feeling. So is that some way linked to this?
Yes, because as
nerve?
I said earlier on, the vagus nerve is linked to the parasympathetic system, which is a fight or flight. So definitely. Sometimes, when you get very anxious or stressed, it can cause you an upset stomach.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, it's just all linked.
It's funny, I got a little bit not stressed yesterday, but I had this uncomfortable feeling. I took my kids out and just being in the traffic again. It was strange. I wasn't, because I haven't driven on for any length of time, certainly in a city traffic, if I'd call it that. I found it yesterday very strange to navigate the speed. The speed seemed strange, and I could feel myself getting quite anxious about that. You know, I wasn't used to it, felt uncomfortable.
Well, there you go. You need to give your vagus nerve some self-care.
Okay, so is this what we're going to talk about? We're moving into
Yes.
talking about self-care for the vagus nerve.
Yes, how
So-
you can reset it.
So if anybody's listening to this and maybe you feel a bit stressed, you're getting stressed or you feel a little bit uncomfortable, this could well be the vagus nerve playing up.
Yes.
Okay, so having a vagus nerve that is serving you well is what we need to be doing.
We do.
I'm guessing the fact you've got about 15 pages here.
There's not that much.
So what you're going to tell us next, how we start to look at improving the vagus system.
Yes, and this is what I've got from my yoga, because as I said, there is some medical intervention that's been shown to be very effective in Alzheimer's, anxiety and bipolar. So clearly they're bigger things which the vagus nerve is linked to. And they've had some really good results as well. But rather than looking at when you get to a point where you need medical intervention, there's things we can do on a daily basis that will keep the body in balance, including keeping the vagus nerve nice and strong, healthy and working.
Now, are these things complicated?
Nope.
I like that. So come on, how many is there? Have we got a few? That I can see numbers. How many have we got?
Hang on. Probably 9 or 10.
So why don't you tell us what each one is?
Okay.
And then if we've had experience of trying these things, let's talk about our experience of trying them.
Okay.
Because I've seen the first few and I think we've had experience of all these. So I'm guessing we might have had experience of a lot of them.
Yep.
So number 1, way to balance your... Is it balance or is that the right word I'm using? Or to
Yeah, balance or
keep
reset.
Your... Reset, I like that. Reset your
your
vagus
vagus.
nerve.
So the first one is cold exposure, which is something we looked at with what's his name, Wim Hof?
With the showers.
Yeah,
and
about
the cold
bringing
shower.
and making yourself shiver, because that also strengthens the immune system. So acute cold pressure has been shown to activate the vagus nerve, because that's what we wanted to do, activate it so it's live and it's living and it's moving rather than it's blocked and it's slow. So exposing yourself to cold on a regular basis will lower your sympathetic fight or flight mode.
Okay.
So it'll calm you down.
Okay.
So one of the most obvious things to do is a cold shower.
Well, that became quite a big thing. If anybody that listens to kind of radio and Chris Evans, we're a big fan of this, the ginger Chris Evans, not the actor. And that came from that kind of win off and exposing yourself to it. So I've tried this cold shower thing. I have to say I was impressed with
We
it.
have an issue here. We can't get a cold shower.
Well, it's not ice cold.
No, it
but
needs to
I wouldn't
be
even say
fairly
it's not cool.
No.
But it is. When I have experienced this before is when we go on holiday. Because the obvious thing we've all experienced if we have been away, even if you go to very hot countries, more than likely if you jump into a swimming pool or you go into the sea in these warm countries, there's a noticeable difference in temperature.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. So we've been to old Roman baths, haven't we? And we've plunged into icy cold water, then get into warm water, then back into cold water. So it's something that has been around for a long time. So it says here to go outside with minimal clothing in the winter, which kind of, it's not always something that you can do, walking down to Sainsbury's.
Well, don't you think
pants.
we haven't, well, no, not again.
Not after last time.
Not after last time. The one thing I found about going outside is we tend to have this tendency, I've noticed it recently when I go out on a morning running, I'll stick my head out at door and it'll feel cold. So what I actually found myself doing, because, I could be wrong with this, you have to guide me. If cold helps you to stimulate it, does the opposite have the opposite effect? So if you're too warm, does that knock it out of sync?
Now, you've just asked me a question. I have no idea.
I'll
find out.
I'll tell you why. I find when I go out on a morning and I set off cold, and we go out into cold temperatures, it does feel uncomfortable. So you've got the tendency, let's wrap up really warm. And we're told this when we're growing up, aren't we? You better wrap up warm or you'll catch a cold. And the concept of being exposed to cold and getting a cold doesn't hold a lot of water as far as scientific evidence is concerned.
No, you don't catch a cold because you get
No, you
cold.
don't. So you think about people that live in very cold countries, Eskimos and things like that. They don't tend to be walking around with sniffling and
No, but they do
rubbing
wrap
Vicks
up.
on the chest. Yes, but they'll still be cold.
Yeah.
So I think the idea that what I found with this is when I do go out into cold weather, there's that I do feel that exhilaration, and it does make me more so when you come back, you have a kind of a feeling of elation.
A simple thing to do on a day-to-day basis is when you get a wash on a morning, is splashing
Cold water,
really cold water on your face. That's something that I do. It's supposed to be good for your skin as well.
The other way you can do that with your shower is, and I think if you, there is, I only know this briefly because it's the kind of what I do. I will tend to go into a shower and have a warm shower to get washed, and then the practice was then 30 seconds, turn it to cold, let your water run cold, and sit in that for 30 seconds. And I suppose, like the swimming pool scenario, it's uncomfortable at first for the first few seconds, but eventually and very quickly you get used to it, don't you?
Yeah.
So first thing, cold exposure.
Cold exposure. Second one, this is one that's a favourite with me, is deep and slow breathing. So breathing is very underestimated. People don't understand the power of different kinds of breathing. It's fairly popular. And how the body heals when you breathe. Because you're taking oxygen in and you're nurturing the blood, and you're taking the blood fast around the internal organs. So deep breathing, slowing the breathing down. And there's one breath in particular, and all you do is you inhale for 4, you hold for 2, and you exhale for 6. So you make the exhale longer. So do that as often as you think about it. Slow your breathing right down, and you will naturally supercharge the organs.
I heard something about that. It's not exactly that because there's different timings, but it's something the Marines use in the American Marines and the Special Forces. It's called box breathing, and it's breathing for so long, hold for so long, breathe out for so long, but the specific times. So I think it's 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, and I think we can all experience that. Is the minute you slow down your breathing and breathe deeper, there's a calmness comes over you.
So it's just, in yoga we have pranayama, which is control of the breath, and there's so many different kinds of breathing. There's breathings to energize, to calm, to speed yourself up, to slow yourself down, to stop overwhelm. There's just so many different types of ways of using the breath. Most of us just have no idea how to use it. So that's a really simple one with the breath. Inhale for 2, inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6.
And I suppose where the first one is a little bit more, you need to be in a specific environment to do the cold business. It's got to be cold, or you've got to have access to water that's cold. What I like about this second one, the breathing, is you can do that anywhere. So the minute you start to feel yourself getting overwhelmed, or you feel like something's building up, boom, you can start away straight to get onto your breathing. Anywhere.
Sorry, just a little story came to mind then. It
What
made
story?
me smile. It was when I took my little grandson to the swimming baths, remember? You know what kids are like? They won't put the coats on.
Oh, yeah.
And the gym, if you remember where the gym was, it was perched up on a hill up at Birstall, and it's just like, it was like white with snow, and it was really cold. And we came out of the bath, and he's saying, I don't want my coat on, don't want my coat on, don't want my coat on. And because I'm his nan, I just think, okay, whatever, we're only walking to the car. So I said, fair enough. And we walked outside, and within seconds, his teeth were chattering. And he said, I'm really cold. I'm really, really cold. I said, well, it's good for your immune system. Come on, let's go.
He'll take his coat next time.
I think he did.
Right, number 3.
Number 3, and you're probably going to be smiling at this one. Singing, humming, chanting, and gargling.
Okay, I get that.
Have you ever had a really good sing-song and felt good?
Yeah.
Have you seen people in a choir, especially a gospel choir? They're so happy and so uplifted. So this is another way. So humming.
Right. We're not going to have to go through all these things, are we?
Okay, no.
Because I think we all understand what humming is, chanting is, and gargling. So I was just waiting for you to gargle, that's all.
No, I used to have to gargle with TCP. That used to make you gip. Blech.
I think the thing with all these is singing. You can look at this in a lot of different ways, because if you thought of singing, humming, chanting and gargling, certainly if you singing, humming and chanting, that's got it can have a very spiritual connotation to it, because we think of the monks that chant and sing and hum.
Yeah, and there's certain different chants, that mean different things.
I get that. But really, I think what this is alluding to is you could be singing along to an Oasis record. You could be humming a Queen tune.
Because this vagus
You could be
nerve
chanting at a football match.
is attached to your thorax. So
Okay.
so the voice will
Right.
stimulate it.
How have you? I remember the experience we had a while ago, and we had some friends up for a weekend, and we went to the sculpture park,
Oh, yeah.
and we were sat in. There's a building there called the Deer Shelter, and if anybody who knows it, which very few people listening to this probably will know it, but it's a big square that's sort of sunk into the ground, isn't it? And there's like at the top of it, there's a light, just a light source, which is just
A window.
it's not a window because there's no glass in it. It's just an open space.
Yeah, well, it was a proper deer shelter, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's got an echo inside, and they all started kind of chanting, didn't they, and humming.
Yeah.
And it
It's really
sounded
good.
amazing. At first, though, interestingly, it sounded quite uncomfortable because I felt a bit, what's going on here? Hang on.
It's not something we do. We're very westernised, aren't we? We don't especially English. We don't do that kind of thing.
Well, no, but we do sing, and we do hum, and we do chant. So
When I sing, you go, shut up.
I think we all sing better when no one's listening. I know a couple of people that are kind of, well, I know one person who's a singer. And when I see her singing, she gets right into it. And I could never do that. I would never have the bottle
Not
to
even
do
alone.
it. I think this is it. And what I was alluding to
Did
is,
you have the hairbrush when you were a kid?
no,
as
I
a
never
microphone?
hairbrush. I mean, I've got microphones now. I've tried singing into these actually because I thought maybe the microphone would make my voice sound better. It doesn't. But what I do like to do when I'm in my car is sing along. And I found on a morning when I'm out, I run to the same record some mornings, and there's one particular song on the album that I do sing along to.
Which is?
It's Supersonic, and all this. There's about two or three, but there's I love singing when no one's watching. So yeah, I do it.
Okay, number 4, probiotics.
Oh, I like these.
So we need this healthy bacteria in the gut. We can bring that on naturally with certain foods, but we can also take probiotics. Have we started to drink something with...
We've started to drink something called kombucha.
With like billions and billions.
Well, there's a couple of things there's kombucha, and the other thing that you can actually get as well, and I'll have to remember the name, is like a pickled cabbage from
Sauerkraut.
No. Well, sauerkraut's one of them. I think that's a bit of a... I'd have to check this, because we might start sounding like we don't know what we're talking about. There's another one, Kimichi or something, Kimichi.
Oh, I know what you mean. Is it a Japanese
It's like
thing?
a Japanese dish. And I think that concept of pickled probiotic... fermented, that's the word. Pickled,
so it helps your gut.
But we have been taking kombucha, which has become a drink we take occasionally.
It's like our special occasion.
It is. Well, we don't drink, do we? So it's like our equivalent of a bottle of Prosecco. It's cheaper as well.
So digestive health is very important.
So what's your view on these drinks you can take, these little kind of yogurty things? Do you think...
I don't know enough about them. I would imagine the human body would be able to live very well with just natural.
Because what was interesting about them is they're based on a yogurt, so I'm guessing there's a few sugars and impurities in where that kombucha we drink is completely natural. Which is what I think why you bought it, because you're quite funny when you buy stuff these days. It's got to be completely natural. And it is. So probiotics.
Yeah. So
you can get that through gut health. Get you some good health. Gut health.
Meditation. Okay.
Why did I do that then?
So this talks about, let me just point this out, meditation techniques can stimulate the vagus nerve and increase vagal tone. So I didn't mention that earlier on because that's what I'd been reading about. It's the tone of the vagus. That's what they call it, the tone. So keeping a good tone, a strong tone. So meditation, of course, we should all be meditating. But it just quietens our mind down, allows us to rest and allows us to get stronger through that rest.
Is there an optimum time to meditate, as in a length of time, do you think? In your experience? I mean, is it something you can do in 5 minutes, or does it need to be 35, 40, an hour? What does it need to be?
You can meditate for just a couple of minutes. I don't meditate every day, but when I do meditate, it will be for about an hour. But that's just what I enjoy doing. A lot of people are going to say, oh, I've tried meditation, I can't. It is a practice. And quietening your mind to a point where you can just drift is not easy, especially during the day. And then on a night you do it and go to sleep, so you've not meditated, you've just basically fallen asleep. So I will take about an hour, because it'll take me probably nearly 30 minutes to get into a meditative state.
I think it's a practice. I find myself sometimes, especially when I'm outside, especially when we go walking, I can spend just 3 or 4 minutes when we're maybe having a break, going into a deep state of awareness. Because I don't think you can't, it's impossible to, it's very difficult to shut your mind up, because your mind will think automatically.
It will.
So I think sometimes people misunderstand what meditation is.
Yeah, some people think it's not thinking.
Well, you can't not think.
It's just not being attached to
And not
the
to the
thoughts.
thoughts, as if they're passing through, which I think is
So I
interesting.
suggest if people are struggling to try guided meditations, listen to a meditation.
And we will be doing some guided meditations in the next couple of weeks, because that's something we've talked about doing.
Yeah.
Because I think if you've never meditated before, it's incredibly, it's not complicated, but it's just getting into it. It's almost like feels uncomfortable. It's a bit like when you start
understanding
to,
exactly what it means.
well, it's like when you first start to drive a car and you have all these buttons and things to press, and you might think, well, I'm only sat there. There's so much more to that. So we will be doing guided meditations, so look out for them. Okay, so meditation, that's number 5. What went to number 6?
Number 6, exercise.
Wow, our thing, so.
Exercise increases the brain's growth hormone. Okay, so it supports brain mitochondria. So it helps reverse cognitive decline. That means exercise and you will stay younger in your thinking. Like, you won't get slower. So your memory shouldn't fade as much. And she says, not remembering. What did you say to me the other day? It was so funny. How you just forget certain things, because you were writing and you looked at me and you said, what are those heavy balls that come out of the sky? And you meant hailstone.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I remember. You thought it was very amusing.
It was, because I knew what you meant straight away.
I think the thing with exercise, I mean, we've got to be a little bit careful that we don't talk as if all we talk about is meditation and yoga, and because there's a lot of our videos or a lot of the podcasts have been with some talk about exercise, and the reality is the reason we talk about it so often is it's absolutely crucial to having a quality of well-being that you would be happy with. You simply cannot not exercise or do anything and remain well.
Not really. It says here, most brain surgeons recommend exercise as their number 1 piece of advice after surgery.
Interesting.
So choose your exercise. You like to run. Me, not so much. I like to lift weights. Of course, I love my yoga, and I like to hike. And that's basically about it. I do go sometimes out with you for a short run, and it's not my number 1 way. So find something that you can enjoy.
Yeah, I would say the thing with any kind of exercise is there'll come a point, if you do it properly, where you will enjoy it more. But it doesn't maybe feel that enjoyable when you start in an exercise regime.
Yeah, you get to a point where you have to push through, and then it becomes
enjoyable. Easy. It's almost like you raise a level. I mean, for me, I would always suggest if you are listening to this and you don't exercise at all, firstly, you absolutely need to. And we were talking about this, and how do we talk people into improving their exercise regime and getting healthy? And I thought, if you have to explain to somebody, and this is where I don't want to sound unkind, but I have to be a little bit firm. If you've no interest in exercising, then you have got to understand there's a consequence comes with that, which is significant. So I think for me, if you've never exercised before, don't do the silly trick of going out and saying, oh, I'm going to start running and buy a load of fancy trainers and all the gear and all that. Just simply start by moving outside. Do a little bit of walking or a little bit of yoga. Everything that Sue does with the yoga, you can do in the home. You don't need to leave your house to do that. And interestingly, through the lockdown, you've seen your yoga practice increase because people can now do it from home.
Yeah, my business, as far as classes go, has improved.
So I think it's because people can do it in the comfort of not being seen by others. And I think if that is a barrier to you, one of the places to start your exercise is walking. Either do yoga at home. You know, you can go onto Sue's, onto Better 27. You'll see some links to Sue's website. She has got videos in there of her doing yoga you can follow through to. But I would say if that is something that concerns you, start walking, just even around where you live. There's two benefits to me to doing that. One is anybody can walk. As long as you've got a pair of shoes, you can walk in any special equipment. And secondly, you can almost tie it in with one of the other things you talked about, which is meditation. Because sometimes going round and being incredibly mindful of how you're walking and where you're walking, it can bring meditation and walking together. Because there are some, as you know, there's some walking meditations. There
is.
But you must be doing some exercise. We can't stress this enough. Get yourself exercising and don't sit there. I mean, you won't be listening to this now if you're this kind of person, but if you know somebody who kind of balks against it, you really should encourage them, because if you don't take care of that, your meat wagging, it'll break down.
We talk about the vagus nerve more in yoga. Well, not kind of like chit-chat about it over coffee or anything, but there are specific yoga asanas that we do use to stimulate the vagus nerve.
Can you give us one that people might know?
Downward dog.
Perfect. Everyone knows downward dog. So downward dog, is that because you're stretching it out?
They're just stimulating certain areas of your body in a particular order, and sun salutations as well. So here we have, I think it's the last one, socialising and laughing. Things that we actually don't do that much.
Well, do we?
Apart from you laugh at me.
Well, you make it sound we don't laugh.
Well, you laugh at me. I don't think you laugh with me.
There are times, I get moments sometimes, you've caught me, when I'll just listen to something or I'll hear something and it will just make me laugh to a point I can't stop. I cry with laughter.
And it's usually some man joke that's not remotely funny to me.
It's funny to me. Well, it was that. There was a little meme I saw on Facebook.
Oh, it was flipping cat converters.
Cat converters. Instead of casket with cat converters, we buy any cat. And it was just funny. And I found it funny. I'll not mention it because we might have some cat lovers listening that might be offended. We don't offend anybody now, do we?
No, you took your cat and got money.
No, it was a joke. It was like, instead of cash converters, cat converters. And he said, if we sell any cat, it was we sell any cat, we buy any cat, not we buy any cat. Right. I think let's look at what this socialising means, because I think in this day and age of online and having friends on Facebook, we can feel like we've got a lot of people that are our friends. We're specifically talking about socialising involving time with other people.
Face-to-face, yeah, groups.
Now, I've never had a lot of people I did that with. I know a lot of people. I've known a lot of people over the years, but I've only got probably a handful of people I spend time with. Most of it's you. We spend a lot of time together. And we do spend a lot of time socialising with your family, really. You know, you spend a lot of time with your daughter.
Yeah, I mean, not lots of time, but sometimes. So, yeah, but when you think of when, I think it was last year, we all went up to Northumberland. We did the Northumberland hike. There was my sisters,
so that's
brother-in-law.
socialising.
And we had a great time. It was nice to, do something a little bit different, a little bit active. We'd gone out the night before, and my mum came with us.
Yeah.
And we had a few drinks of sparkling water. And we had a great day, great couple of days.
But that tied in with something else, that when you're out walking, which is why I think it's a great way to get into exercise, you chit-chat with people there, and that's an element of socialising. So I think there's sometimes this idea, especially if you... I don't understand how people keep 150, 200 friends active. You can't.
I don't think they do.
Because there's nothing I could find more distressing than having to spend time around lots of people on a regular basis.
But I've been speaking to some of my clients who I've been going into their place of work to do yoga classes. We've moved them online, and they have Zoom meetings and they catch up with each other. But they say it's still not the same.
No, you need that.
And they kind of like switch the computer off and they sit there with a little sad face, missing the work colleagues and the banter and everything else that goes around it.
I was listening to a podcast last night by Joe Rogan. He had Jocko Willink on, and he was talking there about jobs, actually. And he said that one of the problems they've got in America at the moment, why they think there may be a lot of issues across there, there's always been this issue with the rioting, is they're saying that there's a lot of anger because some people have not got a purpose anymore because there's no manufacturing. Everything was done to China because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
And actually having a place to go to work is not just about money. In fact, money is only a part of it. The other part is the fact that you get a purpose, something to do that you feel
It's
is worthwhile. And second, and again, is you get the interaction with other people and your colleagues.
I think that sometimes if you speak to some people who worked in a very busy environment and they've retired, they can feel quite down for a long time.
Yeah, because they don't have that interaction. So I think socialising doesn't have to be anything complicated.
No, we're not about partying, are we?
No, but again, let's make that clear because people might think, oh, we need a lot of friends. I don't think you do. I think as long as you've got a couple of people that you can spend time with occasionally, it's enough. I used to know somebody and I used to, I'd spend time with them. And the minute I'd stopped spending time with them, as in I was going to leave now because I was going home, they would go straight away to somebody else's house or somebody else would come to theirs. It's like they could never be alone. So I think as well as socialising is important, there is the other side for me that you've got to temper that with we do need time to ourselves. But too much of either one is not good.
I think it's basically saying that humans are social animals and we need that
social interaction.
Social interaction. So there are a few things that you can do to stimulate your...
So go through them again, recap them, Sue. So number one was...
Oh, hang on, let me get me
There you
stuff
go.
together. Throwing yourself in an ice cold pond.
Cold exposure.
Or splashing your face with cold water. Deep and slow breathing.
That's
did
it.
the inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale
out
for 6.
6.
Singing, humming, chanting and gargling.
Gargling. Okay.
Oh, it says here, gargle water before swallowing it. Because it activates the muscles in the throat, which increases your vagal tone.
Your vagal tone.
So I didn't want to get too complicated, that's why I didn't mention the tone thing. Then we've got probiotics, keep your gut nice and strong and healthy. And meditation, exercise, and socialising and laughing. What are you laughing at now?
Well, I've just thought of something, you could tie this in.
Yeah.
We're creating a new dish
Yeah.
that you could eat that would be bread-based. That'd be good for your gut.
Yeah.
And your tone. You'd call it the vagal bagel.
See, this is the sort of thing that he laughs at.
The vagal bagel.
You're always making your own jokes up. And limericks. Things that don't always rhyme. And then you're like laughing your head off.
Okay.
So...
Did you mention them all? Did I cut you off there? You got down to probiotics.
No, I mentioned them all.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, conclusion.
Okay, talk
This is
to the
not-
microphone. Don't speak across it. It's a big echo.
And it's just like, I can't see anything. So, the conclusion is, you don't have to be controlled by your body and mind. You have the power to tell them what to do. So we can all do these different things we've spoken about to increase our well-being. Okay? So by stimulating the vagus nerve, we are sending a message to the body that it's time to relax, de-stress, and regenerate. Increasing the vagal tone will allow you to overcome anxiety and depression and manage it better when it does arise. To live your life more optimally and successful. All around a vagus nerve.
That most people
Bearing in
prior
mind
to
there's 12 of
listening
them.
to this may never knew existed. I think what's interesting about this today and what you said just then is you are in control of a lot of the things you maybe don't realise you are. So a lot of the issues we have around health or the challenge you have around health, a lot of these things you can take control of. But there's two things required. One is you've got to put the effort in to find out how to change that thing. And then you've got to put the effort in to make the change itself.
That's why I thought it was good to do a talk around the vagus nerve, because you wouldn't sit there and think, do you know what? I think I'll just go check out my vagus nerve.
Well, no, but now knowing that,
Because you wouldn't know anything about
knowing
it.
what you've said there, I would suggest that this could all fit into a very simple morning routine. So let's say you got up on a morning,
Yeah.
bump, and the first thing you did when you woke up is instead of just you could get yourself meditating first thing in the morning. Follow that off with let's go outside and have a little run.
Yeah.
If it's cool, don't put a lot of gear on. Run faster.
Get cold.
When you come back, you could
Have a
have
shower.
a lovely cold shower. Then you could have some breakfast, and if you ate the right kind of breakfast, that would stimulate your good bacteria in your gut.
And then you could sing.
Then you could sing while you're getting ready or something, followed by maybe catching up with a friend and socialising.
You could even sing together.
Yeah.
How many of your friends would sing if you asked them to? Do you know what? Let's go for a walk and have a little sing-song.
Isn't it amazing that how many things would we try if it wasn't for the fear of being ridiculed?
Have you seen those old videos that show you pubs after the war? And there was a guy in a piano and people would sing.
I used to go to when I first started working, I used to work in a town called Batley. It's like a mill town. There's a long road in it called Bradford Road. It's called Bradford Road because it goes to Bradford. And they used to be full of mills, and I used to walk home. I had two choices now. I could get a bus home, okay, or I could have a pint of bitter.
And walk home.
So many nights I walked home. This is back in the day I liked to drink. I used to go into this pub, and it was called the Oak, or the Royal Oak, and it might be the Royal Oak. It's now called Oaklands or something. But
has it got an Elvis on it?
It's a bit further down from that, yeah. But I know what you mean. It is. It's next to that. And there used to be two women in there that would sit at the bar, and then they would sing. And they used to sing "The Blanket on the Ground," and they used to sing in this lady. You know that sometimes how you might remember Coronation of the Hilda Ogden. She used to like a right gargly voice. Gargling. She was gargling. Maybe she kept in a vagus nerve. So I think singing in pubs was a thing.
And didn't you enjoy it? Not long ago, there's a small Italian restaurant in Leeds. I don't know if it's still there. And the old woman, it was her two sons that ran it. She used to sing her head off. And you'd be like enjoying your pizza, minding your own business. And she'd come out of the kitchen and start singing.
It's interesting how places like that have changed, because when I was growing up, and certainly when I used to drink, before it became a problem, I had to stop drinking. I saw a pub as a place to socialise, where now I'm not sure it's more of a place. It's not they're not the same, is what I'm saying.
No,
They were like
if you went out into the countryside to a village pub, you might find it.
Well, we notice it when we go walking, when you go to the pub afterwards, because whether you drink or don't drink, it's always nice to have a glass of something cold and maybe a portion of chips and a pie after you've walked a long distance. And again, people in there socialising, talking, sharing the stories of a walk. So, yeah, I think what's interesting when you've talked about this today, cause I'm glad you've mentioned this, because I think people will get something from it, is that we will look for deeper ways. Why am I feeling anxious? Why do I feel out of balance? When it could be as simple as that, your vagal nerve. And if you don't know, vagus. Is it vagus? Vagus nerve. And your vagal tone.
It's not spelled like Vegas as in Las Vegas. It's spelled Vagus. Vagus.
Vagus. So is it pronounced Vagus or Vegas?
Vegas.
Is that how Deepak does it?
Yes.
Good, it must be true then. Right, so thank you, Sue, for that today. Thank you for making some notes, and we hope you've enjoyed listening to that, and try some of them things out, because the important thing when you listen to these podcasts is there's no point in just knowing the information. You've got to act on it, haven't you?
Yeah, you certainly
So there's nothing in that list there that you can't do relatively easily and relatively inexpensively. So apart from having to maybe get some, you have to look at gut health. Maybe you should do something on gut health. A particular thing on foods you could eat, because I do know the obvious way would be to eat the kombucha or things like that. But none of them things you've mentioned there are out of people's abilities.
No, the gut is really important. I mean, that's just brought to mind about, you've heard they say the gut is the second brain.
I would agree with that.
So when you think of the vagus nerve coming from your head through your brain and your cranium,
keep that healthy,
all the way to your gut, and all these little pathways, that's what I was looking for, coming to the different organs, it's quite fascinating. The human body is just an incredible piece of software. Is that the right word?
No, hardware.
Hardware.
Your brain's your software, your body will be your hardware.
The way it works is never ceases to amaze me.
Good. Well, we hope it's amazed some of you that are listening, that you'll try some of these things out.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you've any questions about this, because it's something that Sue, I'm sure will be only too happy to answer. So you can drop us an email at better247.com. Some interesting things happening across there at the moment. We're nearly where we need to be with that. After all this time and bits and pieces, all these years, we're almost close to having something that resembles a proper little business, which is exciting. So if you want to drop a message and ask Sue any questions about that, what we talked about, the vagus nerve, bet27.com, contact us page, it'll come to us and we'll respond to you. And if you've enjoyed listening to the podcast and you're not subscribed, please do so. And if you do like our content, we'd really like some of those reviews. That would be really nice.
5-star?
5-star reviews. Only 5-star reviews. Don't be giving us no 3s and 2s and saying, if you don't like the stuff, just don't listen. So yes, thank you for listening. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. If you watch on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe and a follow on that. And thank you, Sue. And until the next podcast, take care.
Bye-bye.